a few of the slides today. So coming to today's agenda, right? So we will be covering a brief detail about SAP product and its history and various communication methods between SAP and MuleSoft, followed by a detailed walkthrough on SAP configurations in MuleSoft and its demo. And lastly, if time permits, right? So we can also discuss some of the common issues we encountered along with its troubleshooting steps. Yeah, and we'll open the floor to Q&A in the last. We can move on to next slide. Yeah. So what is SAP, right? So quickly to touch base on the SAP product, right? So what is SAP? As many of you might already know, it's a world's top ERP solution company, which is having over 4 million customers. And SAP mainly stands for System Applications and Products in Data Processing. It's a German-based company that was founded in the year 1972. And now, what is ERP? So, ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. It's nothing but a packaged software designed to cater most of our business needs today, and in every functional area. Okay, such as like manufacturing, sales and distribution, finance, HR, product planning, warehouse management. Right. So there are multiple modules in the SAP, which comes as a package software, which will term as a ERP. So now, coming back to SAP, company history, right? So SAP brought a financial accounting software, named it as an R1 in the very beginning stage, which is nothing. R stands for real time processing. Later in subsequent decades, right? So it moved and evolved from R1 to R3. It's just like from tier one to tier three application product, you can say, where it has evolved and added multiple functional capabilities in its own product, right? And today we have S4 HANA, where which is a hot cake in the market, you can call it. So S4 HANA mainly, it's a fourth generation of SAP Business Suite, which comes along with its cloud-based solution capabilities, where they are uniquely distinguished today by using an in-memory database solution. So here, S4 HANA stands for High Performance Analytic, appliance. Coming to the last topic, SAP integration format. So today, integration with SAP is possible in various modes. Some of the popular ones are like IDOC and BAPI over RFC protocol, SOAP and REST over HTTP protocol, and lately on S4 HANA Suite, we have multiple APIs being exposed on an OData protocol. Basically, OData stands for Open Data Protocol here. So let's go for next slide, Joydeep. Yeah. So coming to challenges we see in SAP integration, on few of the points here. Will not go much in depth, but at least from audience perspective, I'll just tap on these 3 points. So SAP integration methods, right? It don't extend well to most of the third-party systems, mainly because SAP has developed its own capabilities, as I explained in last slide, right? It has given a capability such as IDOCs, BAPI, abap, RFC, its own format and its own protocol, along with its own like a JCO libraries, right? So which makes difficult to handshake or exchange message formats with most of the third-party systems today. So that's the reason why it don't extend well with most of the third-party systems. Now, before I go for the second point, one key benefit of using SAP product today is it is a highly customizable product to the business need, and most of the companies are taking full advantage of it today. That's the reason why it has led to most of the inconsistent configuration, I would say, because what do you call uh, uh, too much of customization. What happens is it becomes eventually difficult to manage it, right? So inconsistent configuration has basically led to most of its cost on the cost part, and on the complexity part it has extended. So lastly, SAP, is providing a comprehensive SAP stack of solutions today with its own integration methods and coding standards, which actually, creates a demand for multiple resources having a specialized or a niche skills. Mainly, like SAP will have a multiple roles enabled, like developers who will do an ABAP coding, and functional resources who will work in various SAP modules, and security and infra. So basically, it needs niche skills to manage the SAP product. So before we go on to solutions for the MuleSoft connector, I'll hand over from here to Joydeep, who will now take over the subsequent topics on enabling various standard solutions to connect SAP to a MuleSoft. Joydeep, over to you.
Joydeep, maybe you have to unmute yourself and then.
Hello.
Yeah, Joydeep.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So Mahesh has nicely explained about the challenges in SAP integrations, specifically using their native format, which is IDOC and BAPI. So now we'll see how MuleSoft address these challenges. Okay. For this, MuleSoft provides Anypoint connector for SAP, which helps to connect SAP on-premise as well as their cloud-based solutions. Mule runtime engine supports this SAP integration through this Anypoint connector. So this one is SAP certified Java connector that leverages the JCO libraries. Now, what is JCO? It's basically the Java connector, abbreviated as JCO. Basically, SAP provided this library, and using that libraries, any Java application can integrate with SAP. Okay, and this connector provides varieties of options like synchronous, asynchronous, transactional, and queue-based IDOC and BAPI interaction. Okay. So as you can see here, it allows also the parsing of SAP native data format to the XML format, which you use in the MuleSoft layer for the further processing like mapping and then calling the downstream APIs. Okay. So we'll see this in details in the demo session. Now let us quickly understand few SAP terminologies. Okay, first is RFC. RFC is remote function call. It's the communication interface between SAP to another SAP or non-SAP system. Okay, and then it comes the BAPI. BAPI is their business API. Basically, this is object oriented. Okay, so BAPI exposed the business objects for access by the external systems. And this business objects represents the real objects like, sales order or customer master, material, etc. So each of these business objects provides some methods. And when you call this or, interact with this business object, we basically call these methods from MuleSoft or any other external systems to interact. Okay. Next is IDOC. IDOC is basically like SAP standard data format. It's called intermediate document. It is used for transferring the transactional data, and so it's like event driven, and also it is asynchronous in nature. So when an IDOC is sent from SAP, SAP doesn't need any response, or SAP doesn't wait for the response from the external system. It is mainly used for transferring the transactional data, as I mentioned earlier. For example, when an order is created in SAP, sales order, right? So the sales order data needs to go to multiple systems. For example, a warehouse management system, a 3PL system, the inventory movement system. So SAP just sends this um, sends the IDOC to the middleware, and then the middleware maps the IDOC data and send to the respective target systems. So let's move on. So a few more useful information about SAP integration. When you start to work on SAP integration, right? So there is a learning curve. If you look at MuleSoft documentation, you need to have some understanding about SAP and its related component. So I'm going to provide this info in a very short, concise manner. So SAP is their main application is ERP. They have many applications like ERP, then they have CRM, HCM, their BI. So we are going to focus on ERP. So ERP has two major versions. Okay, one is R3 or sometimes we call it ECC. ECC basically the later version, and then there S4 HANA. So R3 or ECC is based on their three-tier architecture where they have application, database, and user interface. And S4 HANA is basically their new generation ERP solution, which runs on their in-memory database, so which we call HANA database. Okay. Now, the next one is the NetWeaver. So what is SAP NetWeaver? NetWeaver is basically their application server. So be it R3 or S4 HANA, these are the ERP applications. And these applications need a platform to run, right? So the SAP NetWeaver is the platform which provides the application server, and this ERP applications like ECC, R3 or S4 HANA, this runs on this application server. So basically NetWeaver provides the runtime environment for SAP application. Any questions so far? Else we can move.
No question.
So,
Yeah.
okay, all right. So we'll quickly, look into this configuration setup. So mainly we'll see the demo. So I have included a few things from SAP side. So I think it is, good to know this information because there is a few tasks, when we set up this integration between SAP and MuleSoft, there are quite a few tasks needs to be performed in SAP, and also the related task will be done in MuleSoft. So let us try to understand. We'll see these details in a demo also. So in SAP, majorly we interact with three separate teams: SAP Security, SAP Basis, and the SAP the project team. And in the project team, they have the functional and the technical. Okay. So one more thing I want to mention: the SAP sometimes they refer the ABAP developer. So ABAP developer is basically their technical team, and ABAP is their programming language. Their native programming language is on ABAP. Okay. So SAP Security creates the username and the passwords to be used by MuleSoft. It is like a system account, and they need to provide the necessary roles and permissions to this username so that MuleSoft can perform the operations like execute their functions, BAPI, or receive the IDOCs. And then it comes to the basis team. Basis team starts with creating a RFC destination. Like we have mentioned that this is an RFC interface when you interact using this SAP connector. SAP and MuleSoft. So the interaction happens through the RFC interface, right? So first they need to define the RFC destination. So when SAP sends any data to an external system like IDOC or their function, they need to define a RFC destination, like where they will send, what is the destination information. And here they basically provides this variable called program ID, which they share and which we use in our configuration. So we'll see these details in the studio and in SAP. So let us quickly understand this. And along with that, once they create this destination in SM59, they create the port. So this is the place where the IDOCs will be sent, okay, to this port. And after this port, there will be a partner profile setup. Means who is going to be my partner at this. So in this case, it will be MuleSoft, right? So that definition will be done in the partner profile. So I have also given the T codes. This is the SAP transaction code. So I'll show you there this setups quickly. And once these activities are done in SAP, they provide some information like username, password, and then the system number, client ID, message server. So if the load balancing is on in SAP, they share the message server. If not, they share their application server. Okay. So let us quickly go to the demo. I will start with SAP. So this is the RFC destination. This is so if I go here like SM59, it will give me a list of RFC destination, and this MuleSoft connector, or using any system which is Java based and they use the JCO libraries, they interact through this TCP/IP layer. Okay, so let me open. So there are a lot of RFC destinations created. So this is the one we'll be using for this demo. As you can see, this program ID is defined here, and the same value, the exactly same value we need to use in MuleSoft, otherwise it will not work. So we can do this connection test from here. And since I have already running my Mule API in the studio, so it's able to connect, it's able to log in to this RFC server, which is nothing but my studio, and it's giving a success. Okay. So next, once this is done, then they create the port. So second.
So we have a question from Aditya. So how we
Yeah.
decided the destination?
Sorry.
How we decided destination?
So, okay, let me go back to that one. So there are, as you see, there are multiple type of destinations. The HTTP, so it is decided by this type. Okay, so if it is ABAP, like one ABAP program needs to interact with another ABAP through IDOC, they create a destination like 3. Okay, and if it is TCP/IP, the SAP connector works on TCP/IP layer. So the connection type is T. So if I go here, then you can see this is the TCP/IP connection. Connection type is T. And then these values normally, mutually agreed. Sometimes it is mutually agreed. Sometimes SAP decide this value, this program ID. And from here, we only need this information, the program ID. So does it clarify the answer, your question?
Aditya, maybe if you have any doubt, you can unmute also and ask. Let's proceed. Yeah.
Yeah. So once this RFC destination is created, then they create the ports. I'll quickly show. This is our port. So Mule TLS, which is the abbreviation, I think, for MuleSoft. And here you can see that they have given the RFC destination name, just to link between the which RFC destination corresponding to which port, right? And you can see this is for this IDOC and this is for testing purpose. Okay. So this is created here where they have linked this RFC destination. Once this is done, once the port is created, then we need to go to partner profile, and then we need to configure this. So I'll go to this logical system, and this is our port. So you will see that here they have configured the port value. So this is partner profile. And in the partner profile, they need to mention what are the different IDOCs they want to configure. Okay. So here you can see that this is the message type of the IDOC. And this is the receiver port. So this is the port we have defined in the previous step, right? And this is the IDOC they want to send. So as you can see, this is defined for outbound. So nothing is defined for inbound. Means using this partner profile, IDOC will be sent to the external system. IDOCs will not be received. I mean, IDOC can be received in SAP, but it will not be processed further. It will just come to SAP. It will log an error. So we'll see that in demo. Now, any question for this configuration in SAP? Then we'll move into our MuleSoft side configuration.
One question, like SAP has done their configuration, so how can they validate whether everything is good from their end?
Yeah. So the one thing is you can go to your SM59 as I mentioned, and then you can go here, and then you can test the connection. Okay. So if you go here and then you select your RFC destination, and then you can hit the connection test. So since my app is running in the studio, you can see a successful, you know. Okay. So let me know if you have any more question.
One more question by
Yeah.
Arvind. Who is generally responsible for making these configuration? SAP team or development team creating MuleSoft APIs?
So this SAP side configuration, of course, it is done by the SAP team. If you look into this, I have given the team's description here. So SAP security team, they create the username and passwords, and rest of the normally done by the basis teams. This creating this RFC destination, the port, this partner profile. Sometime the technical team also create. And once this is done, they share this the connector parameters which we need to use in MuleSoft, like the program ID from RFC destination, then their host, their port, their system number, etc. So normally this is done by this SAP security and SAP base system. Okay. Yeah. So let's move on. I'll quickly show the connector configuration. This is SAP connector, and this is basically a premium connector. So that means you need a license to run it in the production environment. Okay. So additional license is needed. So the very first thing is the libraries. So you can see that we need 3 libraries which is provided by SAP. And then we need to use it. So these 2 are JCO and the IDOC. The last one, third one, is the native library, means it is operating system specific. Since I'm using this in my studio and I'm on Windows, so it will be a DLL file. If I go here, you can see this is a DLL. So when we deploy this in RTF or in Cloud Hub, which is running on Linux, then we need to use a SO file, .so file. So apart from
Where do
that,
we get these files from? Like if somebody
this
needs.
will be so you can download from SAP if you have SAP access. Else, normally this is provided by the SAP team. Okay. So whenever the enterprise purchase a license from SAP, they get the SAP access where they can download and then share it with you. So we are basically configure a simple connection. So we can use a certificate based also connection, but here for this demo, we are showing this username and password. So these values are coming from SAP. They are client ID. Each SAP instance has their own client ID. System ID normally I have seen like it's a double digit number like 000102 like that. And if the SAP do not have any load balancing, you are directly just going to provide this value in the application server. Means MuleSoft will hit their application server directly. But if they have the load balancing on, will be going via their message server. So message server is acting as a load balancer on front of their application layer. And also they, so we need to configure this, their port and the group. And router, we are not using router. Router is needed when their, system is protected by a firewall. So in this case, it is not, so it is empty.
There are 2 questions. So
Yeah.
first is from Ranjit, where I may get these files asking for SAP account like library.
Oh, so the libraries, it is there in SAP, SAP Marketplace. So normally your SAP team should be able to provide you that, or your customer.
And Shruti is asking, is there any way to download these libraries if I only have SAP P type account?
You need to have their marketplace access. So normally when any organization purchase SAP license, they get that access automatically coming with the license. So and then it is shared across the developer. Sometime I have seen that it is being used per instance. For example, one organizations may have multiple SAP instance, right? So, and then there are multiple teams are working, so they have their own SAP access from where they can download this. So normally it is so you can ask this to SAP team; they will be able to provide you these libraries. But you need to have their marketplace access.
Okay, we can proceed. Yeah.
Okay. So if you look at this SAP, it provides multiple processor. So we'll go through some of them in details and we'll see the demo. So the very first one is the IDOC listener. So this is used when we are going to receive the IDOC from SAP. Okay, when SAP sends the IDOC and MuleSoft will receive. And as you can see, apart from this connector configuration, we have the gateway here, host, their gateway service and program ID. So this is very important. It has to match, otherwise it will not work. Also the connection count can be start from 1 and then 2, 3. It's like you are opening parallel connection with SAP and you'll be receiving the data parallelly, okay, if you have more than one connection. Also here MuleSoft provides a filter using this regular expression. So SAP might send, let's say SAP sends 10 different IDOC type to this program ID or to the RFC destination. But here in MuleSoft, we just need 2 of them or 5 of them. So we just put the filter of their IDOC type. So the rest of the IDOCs will be filtered out, and only the IDOC type mentioned here, it will be processed. And if we don't give any value, it will be receiving all the IDOCs sent to this particular program ID. Okay. Any questions so far?
One question regarding connection count. If it is one, then like if SAP triggered 10 IDOCs at the same time, so like all of them will be in queue for processing, or MuleSoft will lose the rest of the 9 IDOCs?
No, MuleSoft will not host. So MuleSoft will basically open the connection. Using one connection, you can receive multiple IDOCs. That's not a problem. So it's not like that only one IDOC will be received, process, and then you will receive the next one. No. So it's like opening a channel between SAP and the MuleSoft. If you give connection count 2, it will open 2 channels. And then you will be receiving, the data will be flowing, through these 2 channels or the 2, connections. So it's like you are having 2 workers
Yeah,
or,
yeah, got
I
your question.
mean,
But how to analyze, like, okay, whether we'll be okay with one count or we need to increase more? Is there any way we can track that performance? Or
yeah. So you can do the performance testing. You will also see that how we can perform the performance testing for this. So we need to do the performance testing, and we are normally using from 1 to 5. So for my experience, we do not need more than 5. Even one count is very much performant when you are receiving the IDOCs from SAP. So I have seen that I have sent 500 IDOCs or 1000 IDOCs we have received within just a minute. Maybe in few seconds we have received all of them. So it's not like it is just one by one. Since the connection count is 1, it's just opening a channel like a HTTP channel. So you can receive many datas, okay, through that channel. So I'll show that how we can measure what is the requirement for your particular case. Okay, so how we can do the performance testing, SAP and the MuleSoft.
So we have 2 questions. So like one from Harini. For practice purpose without real-time SAP system, how we can achieve?
Sorry, you are breaking up. Not able to hear you clearly.
For practice purpose without real-time
Can you
SAP.
please come again?
Okay, and maybe you can check the chat.
Hello.
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah. So is there any question?
Yes, there are two questions. Uh,
Okay.
uh, One is for from Harini. For practice purpose without real time SAP system, how we can achieve this scenario? Okay, you asking.
Is it okay? 1 second. Let me go to the chat box. Okay. Got it. So so what you can do? Let's say you don't have access to SAP. So it's always better to have access to SAP, because otherwise it will be a very problem based on my experience, because for testing you need to ask them and you have to wait. So instead of that, what you can do, you can so ask them to send just one IDOC, okay, and then in the logger you will have it in the console. You save this IDOC, and then what you can do, you can have one basic HTTP listener flow, and then you from that HTTP listener flow, so you can just have a flow reference to this. So here this I mean, consider this is your actual API. You have lot of steps, right? Not only the loggers, like you calling, mapping the IDOC to a JSON, calling your process API. So from this you just refer to this flow, and then you send the the modify the IDOC data and then send it to this listener. And here you can have a flow reference to this actual flow, and then instead of executing the event source, which is IDOC listener, it will execute from the next steps, right? Is it clear?
Yeah, and another question is from Aditya. Like, can we see the value from properties file for the gateway service or other things? Yeah,
You want to see the values, because
I think. Yeah,
no, that is not possible for me. I am using yeah,
yeah.
specific software which I cannot share the values. I'm very sorry about that, but normally the values are like so I'll just give you an example. It's not actual value, like ls4 dot your customer name maybe abc.com, something like that. Okay, so this may be your message server, and sometime I have seen the value of message server and the gateway host are same basically, because they starts with the load balancer. Okay, and like for gateway service, okay, so you can have SAP GW, then the system number, like that. So this part is fixed, SAP gateway service, SAP GW, then the system number of that SAP instance, something like that. So this is the, and then their port is like gateway port, or the message server port is 3600 normally, or you can have like 360102, like that. Okay. So does it clarify?
Yes, let's proceed further. Yeah.
Okay, so now we'll see the demo. So we'll send an IDOC from SAP, and we'll look into it at various structure, and what are the main key components are there. So let me go to SAP. So I would suggest get the access to SAP. It is make your life very easy. I mean, so I have listed some this transaction code. If you are starting any new integration with SAP, you can ask for a basic access. And I have also listed this basic transaction code which you can run on your own. So this one is WE19 is basically test tool for IDOC processing. I will be sending an IDOC. So I'll just take an existing IDOC. If it doesn't show up here, because I have already tested today for this demo. If it doesn't show up here, you can simply click here, and then you can give a date time range, and then you can execute from there. Like if I give what are the IDOCs are created since yesterday, I will go here and then I will execute, and then I can see this many IDOCs are created, right? So I can just take any one of this IDOC, and then I'll go here to execute this. So this is always, I'm not creating any new IDOCs, okay? I'm just using any existing IDOC for my testing purpose. So there is no harm of doing this, and we should do this, okay? We should not create any new IDOCs to SAP, rather use the existing one. And if you see here, you'll see there are two segments. One is the EDIDC. This contains the IDOC control fields. Okay, IDOC has some header fields or the control fields like their port, the receiver port. So this is the receiver port that we have seen, right? So SAP team has defined this IDOC will be sent to this port, to this partner number. And if you go here, you will see the details. IDOC number is one of the key data. So every time a IDOC is generated, even I'm using this an existing IDOC, it will create a separate IDOC number. Okay, so these we can use as a key data. Apart from that, there will be a data segment. So this is their data segment. Here you can see that all the business data is here. Like this one is the material number, Matner, and this is the value of the material number. You can also use this. So we'll see this more. I have a slide for this one also. Okay, so there is one more segment which is not showing up here. We'll see that later. For now, let's send this IDOC. So I'll go here, test standard outbound processing. So here, like for you see there is a count, okay? For performance testing, we normally use this, okay? So maybe you can start with 100, see the performance, then we can increase to 500, then we can increase to 1000, like that. So Aditya, someone I think asked the question, right? So how we can measure the performance and how we can decide the connection count, etc. So using this, we used to do the performance testing. Okay. So if you do not have access, you can very well ask SAP team that okay, go to WE19 and then do this activity. Send maybe 100, 500,000 IDOCs at a time. So all these will be received to the MuleSoft. And you can see this is the port. So it is using TRFC, means transactional RFC. So we'll see that also if time permits, we'll see that also in detail. I mean, what does it mean and how does it help us using this TRFC port? So let's now send this IDOC, just one IDOC from here, and you will see that it will generate a new IDOC number. Earlier it was 31, right? So now it created 34. 69034. Let's go back to our studio. We should have received this IDOC. Something, let's see. Okay, so there is a way, if we do not receive this IDOC, so we can verify what happened to this IDOC. So what we can do, we can go to this SM58. So if there is any issue, it will log it here. Okay. Nothing. So that means it should be received here. Maybe I need to restart this because I have modified few things here. I'll quickly restart this one. Sorry for that. So meantime, I can take up any question. Okay. So one more thing quickly. Now, if I hit this test connection, so Mahesh, can you quickly check if our any other APIs is running in the server? Maybe
No,
because
so
of that it is taking.
yeah, Joydeep, actually, my API was running in my studio, so I received the IDOC. I received the IDOC in my studio. So run again, run again.
I
Sorry for that. Sorry for that.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So now, okay. So that is also a good exercise. So now you can see there is a connection error since Mahesh had stopped his API. So I got little scared that what happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good that we have seen that other transaction SM58 where you can see that. So since Mahesh has received, there was no error. Otherwise, it will show up there. So now you see that this is connection error because my API is being started. Okay, any other question? You can take it up till it start.
Yeah. So Aditya Shivankar was asking if we have any SAP trial version product to explore. We have only S4 HANA, if I'm not wrong, right? Joydeep, we don't have a ECC version, trial version to explore. Just to
Yeah,
try
yeah,
to run, right? We have only
yes,
S4 HANA on the sandbox. Yeah. So
yeah,
team can explore that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is probably with their OData or SOAP APIs, not with
Yeah.
this RFC and BAPI. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is no
So
trial account for this.
yeah.
Not from MuleSoft side, not from SAP side. MuleSoft side, I think you can still use the connector. You cannot use it in production because it's a premium connector.
Yeah.
Mm. So my app is started. Let me do that. 1 second. Let's
Uh,
first test it.
Joydeep, one question here. So if someone wants to implement IDOCs, they have to use this SAP connector, not S4 HANA, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So irrespective of their, the SAP version, this connector works for HANA as well as for their ECC or R3. Okay. So if you are using IDOC or BAPI, you have to use this connector, whether it's S4 HANA. So I am using S4 HANA. Whatever SAP you are saying, this is S4 HANA. Right?
Yeah. So this HANA is cloud based. It is hosted in AWS and it's a cloud based.
Yeah.
It's a S4 HANA version.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So
Yeah.
let
So
me
it would be
send
interesting
this.
to understand the difference between these two connectors, when exactly which one should be used. But yeah, I'll wait for that.
No, from MuleSoft side, it doesn't matter whether you're receiving from HANA or ECC, but as long as you're
Yeah.
using IDOC listener connector and configuring the properties, mainly the host name, the gateway port, the load balancer, use a program ID, right? So
But
you
we
will
have
receive
the
the
two
data.
connectors, separate connectors, right? For MuleSoft as well, there are two connectors, SAP and S4 HANA, right?
Yeah, two we have. For S4 HANA, recently they have given a OData APIs, right? So if you are going to explore an API, right? So you can add a S4 HANA connector and use OData. You can receive the OData APIs into your MuleSoft. So S4 HANA has come up with the OData features where it has the APIs. It has exposed already as an API URLs. So when you add S4 HANA, you will configure the OData API URLs. So they will receive through APIs.
Okay, got it.
So this the MuleSoft AnyPoint connector works for S4 HANA as well as the older version. If you are using IDOC or BAPI, if you are using web service, their OData, you have to use a separate connector. That is only provided for S4 HANA. So I have sent the IDOC. Hopefully, you should receive this. Yes. Okay. So this is where this IDIDC contains the control fields. So we'll quickly go through this one. The important fields. Doc number is basically their IDOC number. And then the direction is 1 for outbound, 2 for inbound. And they have IDOC type, message type, sender partners, receiver partner. And there are 3 more fields which normally we use for few purpose. One is their create date and create time. So this is SAP date and time. So when you receive might be few seconds or few milliseconds later than this time. Also, they have a serial key. So serial key, sometimes we use this to serialize, to process them sequentially. Since we are using an asynchronous RFC here, SAP doesn't guarantee that it will, or the MuleSoft SAP connector doesn't guarantee you that whether the first IDOC will be received first, because it depends on the payload structure. If the payload is less, it can be processed first. So later, if we need to do a sequencing, we can use the serial key. So this way we have received this one. So how much time is left, Sham? So we'll cover some other scenarios quickly. This is just one to receive.
We have still half an hour.
Okay, good. Okay. Okay, all right. So I think I'll stop this one. It's no longer needed. So let's see if we have any more slides to cover, and then we'll come back to the demo. So this one configuration we have seen in the demo. This is also same. IDOC structure we have already discussed. So I'll just quickly go through maybe and then take it up if you have any question. So IDOC is like an EDI standard. It has some control segment where they have this IDOC number, sender ID, receiver ID, etc. Then they have a data records, data segments. So here the entire business data will be present. And then they have a status also, like when an IDOC is created, it runs through various status like 42. Then when it's generated, it is like 30, and then when it is sent to the external system, it becomes 303. If you go here, we quickly show, like go to any other one, and if you want to see, this is our last one, 35. And here you can see that it has control record, data records, and the status, right? Status which starts with 42, IDOC ready for dispatch. This is ALE, and then ultimately it becomes 03 when it is actually sent. So one thing you would notice that when we receive the IDOC, the status is 30. Reason is there are different layers in SAP. SAP sends this IDOC to ALE layer, ALE sends to the RFC layer, and from RFC layer it is transported to MuleSoft. So the 03 happens after the RFC layer, but RFC layer doesn't communicate back anything to ALE layer. So in the data, you will only see this 30. So if you look at the IDOC, whatever we have received, it has only status as 30. Let's quickly move into the next demo, which is sending IDOC. So this one is receiving IDOCs from SAP, send IDOC to SAP. And consider this is maybe your SAP system API, which is being called from your upstream, like process API, and then you are receiving a JSON data, you are doing mapping using a transform message, right? And then you are using this send IDOC, okay? So in this send IDOC, you need to give the IDOC type. What is the IDOC type you have? So these are the list of IDOC types you can see. Okay, so based on your connector configuration, it pulls out the information from SAP. And here you can see the the expected inputs for this IDOC. So which using this you can do the mapping. And then here you just pass the payload. Okay. So we'll quickly test this. We'll go here. Okay. So send IDOC. Okay. So we'll send this IDOC. So let's change this value to something else. Maybe India. IN, and then so I'll give this value as like something else also. So this is IDOC number. One thing to notice here is when you send IDOC to SAP, you should not give any value in the IDOC number. Even if you give, SAP will simply ignore this value and it will create based on the previous number available in the system. So if the previous number is like 35 or 36, which you created last, it will be 36 here. Okay, so irrespective of the value we pass, it will not take this value. me quickly send this. And then let's go to SAP. Let's execute this. You can see this is the 136 has come, and you can see this is outbound, inbound. So this one is inbound, right? So this one is inbound IDOC, which we have received. But one thing you might have noticed, so this is showing an error, IDOC with errors. So what is the reason is, and again, it has controlled the data records and the status. So let's quickly check the data. So it is IN, which we have given. And so what is the failure for this? Because the inbound partner profile could not be found. So remember, when we have discussed about the partner profile, we have seen only configured for outbound profile, no inbound profile. That means the IDOC has received in SAP, but it is not processed further. It is not processed because there is no partner profile defined for inbound IDOCs. Okay. But this is the way we send IDOC to SAP. Since it is not configured, we cannot show you the end-to-end. Okay. But it is reached SAP. And you can see that the IDOC number is also taken the last one from the last one. So last one was the 35. It is created as 36. I have few more use cases. So before going to that, let's complete this IDOC part. So normally there is a question. Okay, so when we receive IDOC, IDOC is having a native format. So how do we map? Because when we send IDOC, we get the data here, we get the structure here. So it will be easier to map, But when you receive IDOC, there is nothing, right? If you look at this metadata, there is nothing. So how can we do the mapping, right? For that, we need to ask SAP team to share the IDOC schema in the form of XST or XML schema. Or else, if you have access, you can still go to SAP, and then you can go to their, I think, WE60. So I have listed all these transactions. Yeah, so you can just give like our material master IDOC, which we are using. So using that, so normally you don't have to worry about this. This is be too much for you. Just showing. You can very well ask SAP team to give this. So this is the schema, and in case you want, you can so go to start system. So from here you can download. Just the button is not coming. I think there is a way you can download from yourself. So maybe I need to check this. So I used to download here from here itself. So for the sake of time, we'll move on. So you can ask the SAP team. Okay, so they can provide you this information. Okay, so here is the thing: XML schema, and then you can generate from here. Okay, the XML schema, and then you can copy this, and then you can use it in your, input metadata, and then you can do your mapping. So what else we have? RFC call also, synchronous and asynchronous. So once you configure your connector properly, you will see the list of BAPI. So this is nothing but the BAPI we have discussed earlier, and you material get all. So this is their method, one of their method for the material. Okay, so so BAPI for reading material data, and this is their method you are calling. And once you select this, you will automatically see that the list of fields are here. So import is normally, we provide in the inputs, and then export is basically their outputs. Okay. Inputs are normally mapped in under import or tables, if the fields is exposed from their tables, and then export is basically their outputs. Okay. So this is how you can make the call synchronously. Synchronous means you are waiting for the response. SAP executes their method with the inputs you send, and then it gives you the response. Using the response, you do your further processing. Okay.
So
Any
for
other question?
BAPI, it's like how to get the input structure. Like if we need to send some data to BAPI, and then for that input, it will respond. So as of now, the content is payload, but in some scenarios, we have some structure which is required to be sent to that BAPI. So that
Yeah.
is also provided by SAP team.
Yeah. So you need to have a mapping spec, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you see this under imports, these are the SAP native fields. Like this one is for material number. Okay. So you need to map, and then you will have maybe a JSON format or your canonical format, right? So before calling this BAPI, you need to map from your canonical format or your common data model to this BAPI. So using a transform message, you need to do that. And of course, you need a mapping spec, right? Because you don't know that which fields means what. To do the mapping appropriately, you need a mapping spec from SAP functional team. So what are the fields they need? What is the description? Based on that, you can do the mapping. Okay. So and then so there are a lot of I think a lot of processors is given, lot of um, processors part of this SAP connectors. So this one is, we have seen synchronous, then asynchronous RFC call is there. You will be executing a BAPI. Then confirm means commit transaction. If you want to create a transactions and executes, let's say, multiple operations in SAP, you will start and then you will commit. Document listener we have seen. To receive IDOCs. Function listener is when the SAP function module calls a Mule API. Okay, when Mule API is listening for any function call from SAP. So it is also done through the program ID and RFC destination, similar like IDOC. Get function I haven't used, so this is probably to get the function signatures, and also this retrieve IDOC is also to retrieve the document, the IDOC document structure. Like I have this one, but again, so we don't use this normally. Here you can simply give this IDOC and it will give you the IDOC structures. And so these are the main operations to interact, and then the send IDOC, which we have seen to send IDOC to SAP, and then the RFC call synchronously. So normally, I have seen that document listener to receive IDOC, send IDOC to send IDOC to SAP, and this RFC synchronous. So if we need to interact with SAP synchronously, we normally use this. If not, we send IDOC because that is in asynchronous. Right? So
Okay, do
these are
you
the
have any
three major.
examples of start transaction and confirm transaction? Can you give us some example, like how this is used, or what are the use cases for them?
Yeah, sure. So let's say that you have two BAPI here. Okay. For example, you are executing two BAPIs. So I'll quickly give maybe another BAPI name. Okay, it is not coming. I need to open this one. So for example, we can take any BAPI. Let's say this one. Okay. So we are using this BAPI here. Two BAPIs. Okay. and we want to perform them. If this BAPI failed, the previous one should be rolled back. So what we do, we use a start transaction here, and after this we confirm this, so that it will execute in a logical unit. Okay, these two BAPIs. We actually want to perform two BAPIs, right? So and then we want to if the second one fails, we want to roll back the first one. So that in that case we can use this start and commit, confirm these transactions.
So confirm will commit it. And is there
Yeah,
anything that we should, any operation that we need to perform to roll back, or will it do a rollback automatically?
it will be automatically rolled back. For example, if this one fails, it is not confirmed because it will not go into this next step.
And probably there would be some timeout for that until when it would wait, right?
Of course, yeah, of
Okay.
course. Okay. Any other question?
So for
I think.
IDOCs, how do you keep if the system is sending thousands of IDOC, then if any error happens in MuleSoft, so is it like MuleSoft team needs to tell SAP that okay, we trigger those IDOCs which failed because of some reasons?
Yeah. So one thing is IDOC is received in MuleSoft, and then it failed. For
Yes.
example, calling the process API, or
Yeah.
the sending to the backend, right? So of course, then we have our error handling and the logging mechanism. And normally, one of the design pattern for IDOC is, as soon as we receive IDOCs, we publish to a queue, so that we achieve that guaranteed delivery. We no need to inform SAP team if there is a failure in the downstream, right? So if we
Mhm.
publish this to a queue, that means I have the data already stored in the queue.
Mhm.
In it is failed, if it is due to transient error, we can reprocess from the queue. So that is one approach, and we have been using that approach. uh, because IDOC is normally asynchronous. SAP doesn't know that whether it is failed or successful in MuleSoft. That is one approach. Another approach we have used is, in case SAP needs to know what happened to the backend, because that is critical for SAP to know. Okay, whether MuleSoft is able to send to the target system or not. In that case, we receive the IDOC, we process, and then we send an acknowledgement back to SAP. Okay. If I quickly show you this BAPI is mainly used for that purpose, to change the status of the IDOC. Okay. So here you can see that there is a status field. So this is the status field we want to set. So when it comes to MuleSoft, it is 03. If it's failed, we want to set it some status, for example, 05. If it is success, we want to set it at 12. So SAP would come to know, okay, this is failed. What is the reason? And then they can reprocess. They can have a job. If the status is like that, you reprocess. So that is another approach we normally use.
Okay.
Okay. Any other question?
Not in the chat.
Okay. So just to add one more point regarding to the last question. So this is all about when MuleSoft receipts. If MuleSoft do not receive, we have seen that and when the connection was not active. So if I stop this connection, then if SAP try to send this IDOC, it will be logged into the SAP itself, because it is using TRFC, right? We have seen TRFC port means it should not be lost. Okay, it should be stored somewhere. So if I send this one, because my system is down, my API is down, we will not be able to receive. But IDOC is generated. You can see this IDOC is generated, right? But where this IDOC is there, how can we check? because MuleSoft API is not available. So it is basically, there is a RFC table in SAP, and we can check in this one. So here it should be locked. So now you can see that there is an entry here. Okay. So normally SAP creates a batch job, and then it periodically runs this table. It pulls this table SM58, and if it finds any entries here, it will try to reset. And if this system is up, it will be received here. So this is when the MuleSoft or the middleware system is down, SAP sends. So, but it is not reached to MuleSoft. It is stored somewhere in the SAP in SM58. Okay. And then SAP normally has a batch job to reprocess this automatically. All right. If there is no other questions, I think we have done. I have listed few transaction code. This, if in case you have access, it will be useful. If not, you can simply ask your recipe team, because it has the steps, right? Creating destination, creating code. It will be easier for them also. So what are the steps are there? What are the things they need to do? So thank you everyone. Thanks for your time, and thank you Sham, Om. Thank you organizers. That's all from my side. In case you need any more information, you can go through this blog. I created this blog a couple of months back. It will be useful for you. It has the detailed steps of configuring your SAP connectors, including your setup in your studio. There is a little setup needed. Sometime we have seen it's not automatically accepting the request. So you can go through this, has in detail step by step. Okay. I can give it in the chat window. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy and Mahesh, for the insightful session. So yeah, first time I'm seeing the demo of SAP Connector.
Thank
Maybe
you
you
very
can,
much. Thank you,
yeah.
Joy, and thank you, Mahesh.
Okay, thank you guys.
And
Yeah,
wish you
thank you.
all very happy Holi. Yeah, it's a Holi weekend.
Yes. Yeah, thank you everyone. Have a nice weekend and happy
Thank you
Holi.
everyone. Have a nice day, guys. Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you very much,
Bye.
Sam, for
Thank you.
making this possible. And thank you everyone for being with us today. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.